Hello and welcome to episode 94 of This Week in Germany. We'll be bringing the world to Germany and Germany to the world with news for the week beginning the 19th of October 2015. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Rob. Each week we're going to feature stories from the news, society, and culture in the English language. If you want to learn more, including ways to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, head over to our website, thisweekingermany.de. Let's get started with episode number 94. How was your week, Daniel?
It was a very busy week, very news-heavy week, as it is every week for me. But yeah, it was a good one. Though I've noticed now in Germany it's starting to be autumn, and you really feel it's been autumn for a little while now.
It's getting cold. It feels like it's skipping fall and going almost straight into winter.
Yeah, and the sky is permanently grey. That's probably the worst bit for me. I need a bit of sunlight, so I might take a holiday very soon just to get some sunlight.
That's one of our news and briefs I wanted to talk about was there's actually snow coming down in Germany, and I personally in the eastern parts, not super south where I'm living, but I even saw snowflakes. It didn't stick because it was still a couple degrees above freezing, but it actually stuck in some parts of lower eastern Germany.
Are you a fan of snow?
I like it. The first year that I came to Germany, there was snow on the ground for like 3 months straight, and I was like, this is amazing, coming from Atlanta, where it's like, if there is half an inch of snow for 2 days, it's like a catastrophe.
Yeah, well, as long as it doesn't turn slushy and then ices over, that's the worst bit. We got lots coming up for you in This Week in Germany, episode 94. 2006 was what Germans call the Märchensommer, the fairy tale summer. That was basically when the World Cup took place here, and it changed the way Germans think about themselves, because suddenly Germany was on the world stage with a good image, hosted an event which went really, really well, and now we found out that the way that Germany won that competition might have involved corrupt practices.
A little bit of a scandal coming out about it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And we've also got some other cool things coming up.
Yeah, there was another Pegida protest that took place, and there was there's something about it that they are getting in a lot of trouble for. But is it that much different than some of the other protests? And are the people looking at Pegida in a harsher light and judging them harder because of what they stand for? Also, new data retention laws came out, and the Frankfurt Book Fair took place this week, which is pretty much one of the biggest book fairs in the world. Yeah,
and it's very historical as well. It goes back a long way. And who is our German of the Week this week?
Our German of the Week this week is a group of artists that are in Berlin. The U.S. show Homeland was being filmed there. They had kind of like a refugee camp mock-up there, as well as also filming in some studios, and they hired a group of artists, and what the artists did is why they are our German of the Week. It's a little bit of subversive art that they created.
We'll find out more about that later on. And a really cool destination coming up as well, as always.
Yeah, we're going to the city of Hamelin, which... I'll tell you about more, and there is a super famous story that pretty much everyone knows that originated there.
Yes, and we'll hear all about that later on. But let's get started with our top story. On Saturday, Henriette Reker, a mayoral candidate in the western city of Cologne, was stabbed in the neck while out campaigning. The culprit behind the attack shouted, "I had to do it, I'm protecting you all," as he was arrested. He admitted attacking Reker due to her pro-refugee political stance. The independent candidate was operated on and is recovering in hospital. Despite the attack, the vote went ahead on Sunday.
Do they know anything about this man that was arrested at the scene?
Yes, we know some details about him so far. He was a jobless painter and decorator who had contacts in the right-wing extremist scene. To what extent he was himself active in the right-wing scene, we don't really know in terms of now. Certainly in the 90s, he was in the Freiheitliche Deutschen Arbeiterpartei. So that's basically, it was a racist organization which was banned because it was anti-constitutional. And he also, in the 90s, joined in the Rudolf Hess Memorial Marches, which is a common gathering for neo-Nazis. And yeah, he essentially committed this attack out of hatred for foreigners. Now, Henrietta Reker is not a foreigner, but she is standing up for the pro-refugee stance, what some people have called open door policy of Germany.
And besides being a mayoral candidate in Cologne, who really is Henrietta Reckers?
Well, she's an independent candidate, so she's not a member of one party, but she is supported by the CDU, which is on a national level Angela Merkel's party. So that's kind of centre-right conservative, as well as the Greens and the FDP. So she's supported by several parties, but she's not a member of one specific one. She's mostly been involved in local and regional politics until now, and despite being attacked, she will vote from hospital because doctors say that they think she'll make a full recovery. And like I said, this vote is going ahead despite the attack. She's a popular candidate, and a lot of people have said that she could win. Her biggest opponent, let's say, is the SPD's Jochen Ott, who said that he would stop campaigning until the health status, let's say, of Reker was made clear.
Does this say anything about the opinions of the people that are against immigration policies?
Well, in terms of the wider population, not exactly. Most people have an opinion about immigration, but certainly not so extreme. And still, this attack should be taken seriously. Pegida has more members, and that's something that you're going to get to later on in the program in your news and brief. Arson attacks against accommodation for asylum seekers are on the rise. There were 1,029 attacks last year, and we expect that to go up for this year in total. Most of these are in East Germany, though. 47% of all of the racially or xenophobic motivated attacks are in the east of Germany, despite only 17% of Germans living there. And we have to keep the amount of these attacks under control, really. But certainly when it reaches politicians, it reaches a new level. Now, while attacks are rising, just as the amount of immigrants are rising, there's no reason to think that this latest attack is going to be repeated elsewhere necessarily. But an attack on a politician is an attack on democracy. After all, attacks like this scare people away from politics or prevent politicians from airing their views. To echo the words of the SPD Prime Minister of North Rhine-Westphalia, Hannelore Kraft, this attack is an attack on us all. And she's right.
And now for this week's News in Brief. A new law concerning data retention in Germany has now been passed by the German Parliament this past Friday. This is a major change after the Constitutional Court ruled against being able to retain data as of March 2010. Now, telecoms are required to retain 10 weeks' worth of user data. This data will be retained is not going to be everything that a customer has done, but rather just metadata, which will be information on phone numbers that were called or IP addresses that were accessed. Information such as location will also be kept, but only for 4 weeks. The government states that no contents of the communications will be recorded, but the Süddeutsche newspaper reported that due to technical issues, SMS messages will also be saved for 10 weeks. Hundreds of people demonstrated outside the German Parliament building while this vote was taking place to show their disapproval for such measures, while Angela Merkel and other supporters are stating that it is necessary because it's a way to detect terrorists should Germany be attacked. This new controversial law is already set to face legal challenge in Germany's highest court at a later date. A sad day in Berlin this week as they have lost their last official city bear, an icon and recognized symbol of the city. A female brown bear named Schnute died after she was put to sleep because of health complications. She was 34 years old, which is fairly old for a bear. She was suffering from arthritis and other symptoms giving her pain. Schnute had lived with her cub, Maxie, until Maxie died in 2013. Many animal rights activists campaigned to move Schnute to a larger compound, saying that her enclosure in Berlin was too small. Schnute was the last of the beautiful brown bears living in Berlin, which was a compound opened in 1939. Since that time, the city has taken care of bears that are depicted on Berlin's coat of arms as their guardians. At a recent Pegida demonstration, which is known for their xenophobic movement and highly controversial message on refugees in Germany, they may have gone too far this time with some physical imagery brought to the rally. An unnamed man brought a fake pair of gallows that had nooses hanging from them. And at the end of those nooses were signs that said that they were reserved for Chancellor Angela Merkel and her deputy, Sigmar Gabriel. Prosecutors in Dresden are now looking into investigating this man, and the activity, they say, is punishable by up to 5 years in jail. Others are saying that this punishment sounds a bit too harsh for a symbol in a protest, especially after there were similar ones brought to an anti-transatlantic trade partnership protest in the previous week in Berlin. One of the protesters there had a guillotine with Sigmar Gabriel's name written on it as well. The question is now being asked, how can the media and politicians condemn one protest symbol while not addressing the other? A mega book fair, one of the largest book fairs in the entire world, just took place this past week. It was the Frankfurt Book Fair. Over 7,000 publishers from over 100 different countries were in attendance to promote their works. And while interested visitors were the largest group that come, there were other agendas as well. Due to the size of the convention, vendors were there mainly to meet and sell their publications and services to industry buyers. Also, this exhibition is one of the most important trade hubs for international publishing rights. Companies from all continents come to meet with each other in Frankfurt and work out deals how they can buy and sell publications from all over the world and move them across the borders. The first 2 days of the show are dedicated for business to business only. But after that, the show is open to the public and many thousands of people come to see all the new books and other media that will soon be offered. While attendance numbers in previous years, both for vendors and attendees, have been decreasing, the fair organizers said that they have been very happy with the turnout that they received. And some interesting weather happened this week. The heat of summer, which felt like it was only yesterday, has now faded away to fall or autumn, and it might only be here for a short time. Snow has already been falling in Germany's lower regions of Bavaria, Thuringia, and Saxony. But don't expect a white covering on the ground just yet. While snow in October in Germany is not out of the ordinary, the temperatures rarely get low enough for it to stay on the ground for any length of time. Unless you are very low or very high, like on the top of a mountain, you don't need to worry about getting your snow boots out yet for another couple months.
And that was the news in brief. Just before we move on, a quick announcement. It's official. This week in Germany's 100th episode is going to be live. On Saturday the 28th of November at 8 p.m. German time, Twig will broadcast a longer episode and you can join in. You can listen live from home, but you can also come along to the studio and be a member of our one-off live audience. We're going to release more information in the next couple of weeks, but if you're in Berlin on Saturday the 28th of November, you can come along and participate in our live program. We'll have special guests and your favorite features with a bit of a twist. Be the first to reserve your place by signing up to our newsletter, because newsletter subscribers will find out before anyone else. To do that, head to our website and sign up in the sidebar. Now on to story 2. Germany has long lived on its reputational pillars of efficiency, seriousness, and trust in all things business. The Volkswagen emissions scandal, which broke a few weeks ago, went some way to damaging that final pillar, trust. But this week, trust was shattered in one of Germany's most recent successes, the 2006 World Cup. It was a summer that Germans remember proudly, so much so they call it the Märchensommer, or fairy tale summer. It was an event during which the eyes of the world were on Germany for something positive and fun. And the whole complex event went off without a hitch, boosting the country's reputation in the world. Turns out that the deal to host the World Cup in Germany wasn't built on merit, but rather mountains of dirty cash. An investigation by news magazine Der Spiegel shows that a slush fund was created with millions of euros. This was then used to bribe officials to vote for Germany to host the contest, specifically 4 FIFA committee members. That fund was filled by the former CEO of Adidas, Robert Louis Dreyfus. The German Football Association, DFB, admitted that a payment of over 6.5 million euros was made to FIFA, but this money was intended for another purpose, specifically a FIFA cultural program. However, officials at the DFB denied knowledge of the money being used for illegitimate purposes. Spiegel's investigation said Franz Beckenbauer knew about the fund. He was one of the world's most successful football players who went on to work for the DFB and led the organization of the 2006 World Cup. He's a hero to German football fans. The investigation continues, but it now seems the summer of dreams has turned into a summer of nightmares.
And coming up right now is Destination Germany, where we take you on a journey somewhere in the country that we think is well worth a visit. Whether you're a tourist or a permanent resident, a foreigner, or a German citizen, we'll be covering those famous known sites as well as those little known corners of Deutschland. All that really matters is showing you that Germany is an exciting and interesting place to visit. Also, if you enjoy the destinations that we talk about each week, go to our website, thisweekingermany.de, and we'll have photos for you to check out what these destinations really look like.
Yes, and one of those destinations was last week's Cultural Arts Center in the city of Osnabrück. It's called the Felix Nussbaum House, after the Jewish-German painter born in the early 1900s. The reason that his art is so well known and so well loved is because of his combination of artistic skills alongside the situation that he found himself in. He painted how he saw National Socialist Germany, or the National Socialists destroying Germany. And he sadly died in Auschwitz, but his paintings live on today inside a part of the Osnabrück Cultural History Museum. So we highly recommend that you go along to there and check it out. And also you can find those photos, as always, at thisweekingermany.de. But where are we off to this week, Rob?
We're going to learn all about a city that I'm sure everyone is familiar with.
Probably Berlin, right? A lot of people are familiar with Berlin.
Maybe not quite as well known as Berlin. And actually, I bet people might not have even heard of our destination city.
So it's a city that everyone's familiar with, but no one's heard of it. So that doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay, our destination is the city of Hamelin. Hamelin,
yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, so known in German as Hameln. So, yeah, so that's from the Brothers Grimm, right? I mean, that's the... which story was it? Was it with the witches and the Hansel and Gretel, or which evil twisted story was this?
Well, kids are the main focus, but it was the parents that were the naughty ones in this tale, and it starts way back. Like the story originates from the 13th century in Hamelin, and the origin for this particular story is the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and people just now know it as the Pied Piper.
So this is the story about the musician who's hired to rid the city of rats because he plays a tune which then leads the rats into the river. But when the city doesn't pay him what they owe, he uses this magical flute to lead away all their children. So lovely lovely story to tell your kids, about this man who leads away children and to their death. But... yeah, I guess it fits in with all the other Brothers Grimm stories just for being very, very dark. So, but is that all the city's known for? Child murder from a musician?
13th century.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they have other stuff as well. Like, I'd have to say, though, in their the city museum, the Pied Piper aspect of it is quite strong. And they have sections of the museum that are dedicated just to the Pied Piper story and the history and where it came from and where it's moved on today. But they have a lot of other interesting history and interesting parts of their city as well. The actual city is really, 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 really old. It's traced back to the Stone Age, and it started out, as most cities do, as a small village, but it gained notoriety around the year 1050 when a monastery was built there. It was also famous because it was one of the first cities in the previous Kingdom of Hanover.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, what I heard about the Pied Piper in Hamelin is that they have regular performances there. So if you want to take your kids along and see like a stage performance there, just check out the website to find out when those are on. But yeah, they do really celebrate this legend quite a lot. But I forgot to ask, where's Hamelin located?
Well, because it was in the previous kingdom of Hanover, it is located very close to Hanover, just south of it, about 30 minutes by car or so. Think about 50 kilometers south of Hanover.
Okay, and what else makes this a worthy destination? Is it one of those beautiful little traditional-looking towns?
It is. It's something that I really like about the city is the historic town center and like marketplace district. It has a large number of those famous half-timbered houses that you see. This kind of those white painted houses that have the wood on the outside that you can see, and these are renowned in Germany. So, and this place has tons of them. It's also an area that has a bunch of really cool architecture of these stone houses as well as the half-timbered houses, and they go back all the way to the Renaissance period.
Well, we mentioned Berlin a little earlier. Now, the problem with Berlin as a historical destination is that loads of places have been bombed and they don't exist anymore. So it's nice that you can go to one of these historical locations which didn't get destroyed and that have all of these original buildings.
Yeah, definitely. The city did see a little bit of bombing towards the end of the war. It was in early 1945, but largely it was spared from any sort of military destruction. So a lot of the original architecture and sculptures and everything that's in the city is still in its original form. Very cool.
So let's say I'm traveling around Germany, or I'm in Hanover and fancy a trip outside of the city. What can you really sell us on going to Hamelin specifically?
Well, the Pied Piper thing really is the big tourist draw there. They have museums, restaurants, shops, hotels, theaters, festivals that all revolve around this now epic and worldwide tale, like you were saying earlier. In the summertime, like every weekend, they have a play in the middle of the city that shows the Pied Piper for all the tourists to come to. So I know it's coming on winter now, but you might want to check it out in summer because that's when all the Pied Piper weekend plays are going on. So, for that, if part of the trip you want to check out the Pied Piper, but there's also a lot of rich history in the town as well. It's got a lot of beautiful nature around it. It's just south of Hanover, so like you said, you could just take a day trip down there and see everything. So you don't have to make a specific trip to Hamelin, but if you're in Hanover, I would recommend taking a quick day trip down there.
Okay, so Hamelin does sound like a nice little town that has got a cool little story associated with it as well, which everyone in Europe certainly knows. Is it something that in America, is that Pied Piper story told a lot?
Everyone knows it, yeah.
So everyone knows it, and you can go to the place where it was set and see the play in action and see the houses and see the marketplace that they're actually talking about in the story. So that's pretty cool. So if you want to check out photos of this destination, you want to have a look at how Hamelin, or Hameln as it's called in German, looks like, check out the photos on our website thisweekingermany.de. Next up, our German of the Week section, where we put the spotlight on a prominent person from this week's news, a German citizen, or even a foreigner who we deem an honorary German, who's had an effect, for better or worse, on German culture, society, or politics.
Our Germans of the Week this week are three artists that come out of the country's capital, Berlin. Their names are Don Karl, Hebe Amin, and Karam Kapp. These three are no ordinary artists. They're graffiti artists, and they specialize in Arabic graffiti. They are so into the scene that Don Karl, going by the street name Stone, even wrote a book entitled Arabic Graffiti, which you can buy on Amazon. The reason that these three stand out as our German of the Week is because of their actions when they were contracted to create a background art for the hit television show Homeland. Homeland was being filmed in Berlin to what was to look like a refugee camp where the story was taking place. This was actually a former feed factory and not a real refugee camp. For authenticity, they wanted these three artists to add what looked like Arabic graffiti to the background in the set. The trio did indeed add a lot of graffiti around where the show was being produced. But what the creators of the show didn't know, until after it had already aired on television, was what the graffiti actually said. It said that the show was being racist and did not represent the views of the artist. One piece also stated that the show had no idea about the culture that they were trying to portray. The co-creator of the show, Alec Ganza, said that he was not overly upset after hearing about what the artist had done to undermine the television show. He said, while he wished he had caught it before it was broadcast, he did admire their act of artistic sabotage.
All right, Rob, thank you very much for that Germans of the Week segment there. And just before we wrap up, a quick update to an earlier story from this episode. Just as we finished putting the podcast together, it was announced that Henrietta Reker, that's the mayoral candidate in Cologne, the one who was stabbed in the neck while campaigning, has won the election. Doctors say that they still expect her to recover fully, but she's currently in a medically induced coma to help her recover from her injuries. Nevertheless, her campaign team celebrated into the night when the news was announced, and it remains to be seen who will replace her until she's made a full recovery in the role of mayor. So, yes, but we'll keep you up to date with that story in the next few weeks. And that's the end of episode 94. Thank you very much for...
And don't forget to...
listening.
For listening. Yeah, don't forget. Thanks for listening. Yes, we do appreciate it. And you probably already know, but we're going to tell you about our website again as well. You can see our entire archive of older episodes. So if you want to go back and listen to some older Destination Germany's or German of the Weeks, or for some reason you want to go listen to like news that happened last year, then you can check those out on our website. Also, you can find our links to social media like Facebook and Twitter, where we put out some additional content and some additional stories during the week. And you can find some ways to support us. One of the biggest ways we like is for you just to tell your friends about us so that we get more listeners and so we can just have a wider reach. And we can bring This Week to Germany to more people. So remember to rate us and 5 stars and like us on iTunes and all that stuff. And if you want to, feel free to donate to us, because right now we're just paying for it all out of pocket. And any donations that you give us definitely help, and we would appreciate them.
Wow, Rob, you're on fire this week. This Week in Germany is produced by Daniel Winter. It is written and presented by myself and Rob Bishop.
Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back with more This Week in Germany in just 7 days.